Everyone has to live somewhere, and everyone has to invest their money someplace. So what happens when where you live meets up with where your money is invested? Hello, real estate. Hey, welcome back to Big Money Real Estate. I'm Ilyce. Here's your daily update. The National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, otherwise known as NAHREP, just released its 5th annual State of Hispanic Homeownership Report, and that's significant because the U.S. Census Bureau counted 320,000 new Hispanic households in 2014 alone. That accounted for 40% of all the new household formation in the U.S. last year. That's very significant. Marisa Calderon is the Chief of Staff at NAHREP, and I invited her on the show today to talk about the expectations prospective Hispanic homeowners have. Sorry, let me say that again. Prospective Hispanic homeowners have about buying a home and the challenges that remain right now. Marisa, welcome to Big Money Real Estate.
Thanks so much, Ilyce, for having me.
It's nice to have you here. So the number of net home ownership gains for Hispanics has actually slowed a little bit over the last 3 years. We saw an increase of about 347,000 in 2012, and then a much smaller increase last year of 54,000. What do you think is going on with that number?
Yeah, from our perspective and the research that we've done, there has been really a tightening of credit, and that has been really the primary barrier to homeownership for Hispanics. So certainly the appetite is there on the part of the consumers, and the current credit conditions in the market are what has prevented access by more home buyers.
So the homeownership rate has dropped for Hispanics from 46%, or a little over 46% in 2013, to 45, a little under 45.5% last year. But the net growth of owner households was positive, and formations are growing faster, but are more people renting because they can't buy? Is that what you think?
We conducted a survey of the top 100 Latino real estate agents in the country, and 60% of them indicated that they had noticed a tightening of credit in 2014, and that seemed to be the primary barrier to more of those households becoming owner households as opposed to renter households.
So what is it that's changing for credit? How is it that Hispanics are not able to take advantage of what I actually think is an easing of the credit market?
Well, many of the conditions that Hispanic borrowers face are different than other borrowers. So you have issues of being unbanked or underbanked, or from an income perspective, there are a lot of entrepreneurs within the population, and those conditions make it more difficult within how things are scored today, especially considering the use of FICO nearly as an exclusive credit scoring model in terms of being able to make sure that those individuals are scored and are properly assessed for risk.
I find that there is a number of people, a number of companies that are trying to get into this alternative credit space. One of them that I work with is called eCredible, which is, working on ways to get big-time lenders to use alternative forms of credit in order to make sure that people are credit worthy. They're finding that there's more of an interest in alternative credit than there ever has been. From your point of view, are you seeing lenders be more open to the possibility of using other kinds of credit, maybe how people are paying cell phone bills, or how they're paying their utility bills, other kinds of utility bills, or even rent payments? All of these are now under consideration. What is NAHREP doing on your side to sort of push lenders?
Well, there certainly does seem to be an increased appetite to understand how those factors can affect scoring and risk assessment. And from a policy perspective, NAHREP actually has a policy position this year to really encourage the use of alternative credit scoring models, whether it's the one that you described or VantageScore or others, as a means of properly assessing risk for borrowers and to open up the credit box a little bit more where the borrower is creditworthy.
I want to say that everything changed with the housing crisis starting in 2008. FICO credit scores were supposed to be this predictor, this great predictor of risk, and in my view, they completely failed in that people lost their jobs and suddenly nobody could afford to pay their mortgages, something that was not predicted at all in a FICO score. It's basically a snapshot, right? The day that you've got your credit. This seems to be another way to do a better predictor because, if you're losing your job, yes, you're going to have trouble making your utility payments and your rent payments and all the rest. So it seems as though those two things are equal. From your perspective, what else are you suggesting would be a good way to assess risk?
We feel like there should be, a little bit better understanding of how to calculate income and different kinds of income, whether you have a W-2 employee or you have additional other streams of income. So that would help to better understand the borrower's risk.
Does NAHREP recommend going back to no-doc loans, where you could just state your income?
Yeah, not at all. We just suggest that there be really an overall whole house evaluation in terms of how to assess risk on the part of the borrower, so that all of the factors are considered as opposed to just one single element.
Do you find that there's lenders, regulators, Washington, D.C., is everybody kind of getting on board here that there needs to be a better, more holistic model for this assessment of risk?
Certainly with Secretary Castro's recent announcement, there does seem to be a little bit of an increased appetite in Washington, D.C. and amongst regulators to just have a better understanding of how to assess risk. So we're encouraged by that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if it actually is going to work a little bit. Now, Hispanics are just growing, and we know that they're growing in number, they're growing in economic boost. They're lowering their poverty rate compared to annual income. Where are you seeing the purchasing power of Hispanics?
So, well, currently the purchasing power of Hispanics is at about $1.5 trillion. That's roughly equivalent to that of Canada.
That's amazing.
And we see that, yeah, definitely really breathtaking. And we see that increasing to about $2 trillion by 2020.
So what percentage of the economy do you think that will be at that point?
It'll have increased significantly for the U.S. economy. And for Hispanics as a whole, they tend to have sort of interesting purchasing patterns when it comes to electronics and smartphones and certainly early adoption of internet and of different forms of social media. So that tends to influence how that purchasing power is utilized within the economy as well.
It's interesting. The last time I took a look at this, that immigrants were within 3 years, immigrants who came to this country and said, I want to buy a house, within 3 years they were able to make that happen. And it certainly seems as though Hispanics continue to follow in that path, that homeownership is a good thing. They want their piece of the American dream. And it seems amazing to me that the ability to actually go and make these things happen, the power that immigrants have, it's truly one of the wonderful things about this country. And it's been great to see that as a group, Hispanics continue to grow and put so much into this economy.
Yeah, that we echo those sentiments as well. And while I will say that our research shows that immigrants have certainly helped to fuel a lot of housing growth in the country, with the waning of a lot of immigration into the country, Hispanics continue to still be a driving force for homeownership. So, irrespective of the influx of immigrants, Hispanics that are here in the country already continue to want to be homeowners.
Have you looked at all into the purchasing powers of the Latin American homeowners? I know that they're in places like Miami and in New York, Texas. You're seeing a tremendous amount of dollars come in from people who live outside of the U.S. but who are Hispanic. Have you guys looked at that as well?
We focus really nearly entirely on U.S.-based influences. So if you've already immigrated to the U.S., then we have data and research on that. But we tend to feel like our plate is relatively full with the U.S.-based work.
I can imagine. I can imagine so. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Marisa, for being with us today. Marisa Calderon is the Chief of Staff for the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, and thanks for watching this episode of Big Money Real Estate. Send me your real estate investing questions on Twitter and Facebook, and be sure to share this video around with all of your social media friends. And until next time, I'm Ilyce Glink.